Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the ideal list, get ready, of Wagner operas. The ones that matter, that is. We're not going to talk about Die Feen or Das Liebesverbot or even Rienzi because nobody cares about them and nobody likes them. And if you do like them, you can tell me you do, but I don't care because I don't like them. And there aren't that many recordings of them anyway, so there's nothing really to talk about. They're there, and if you want them, have fun. Anyway, how's that for an opening? See, here's the thing. A lot of you have written to me and said, well, when are you going to do operas? And I'm like, oh, how am I going to do operas? I mean, because, you get a wall of them, and you have to talk about each one with all the singers and all of that stuff. It's very, very difficult to get through even one opera, let alone a whole pile of them. And then once you've done that, you get through the whole pile of them, some opera psycho is going to call up and say, oh, well, you forgot the February 27th, 1953 recording with singer blah, 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 and singer doo-doo-doo, and all the people with the pirate recordings and all of that junk that they collect are going to come out of the woodwork, and they're just screaming lunatics, and I don't want to deal with them. I really don't. So I'm not going to deal with them. This is what I decided to do. I think the ideal list sort of talk is a great way to cover a lot of opera because I can talk about, best picks and, for whole swaths of repertoire. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be doing the ideal list of Verdi operas anytime soon because there are like 38 of those, but I can do them in bunches. I can do them in groups, and we can come up with some really fine recordings to recommend. And then if I want to talk about an individual work now and then, we can do that. We can do it on the basis of talking about the work, and then maybe select a few recordings out of a handful. So this is not going to be opera for opera nuts. Opera nuts have their own fora, if I want to use the plural, their own places where they hang out, places where no normal people would ever set foot, and they can swap their war stories and whatever else they want to do at their heart's content. We're just going to put together a really superb list of Wagner opera performances that have no weak links, just like all of my ideal lists. And so we're going to start with the Flying Dutchman, and some of these are just easy calls because they've all been on everybody's list forever. I mean, the Flying Dutchman, Klemperer, so much for the Flying Dutchman. What else do you need to know? It's Klemperer, it's great, it's the best one ever. There isn't anything that's even remotely comparable. I mean, not really. There are some other, good ones. You may like some singers better than others. But this one, you've got Theo Adam. You have the young Anya Cilia. Ooh, my goodness, the young Anya Cilia Senta. I mean, what a Senta. She's just sent up, the Senta. And Marty Talvala. Oh, Marty Talvala. All these singers were in their prime, and it's the New Philharmonian. It's got Klemperer, and it's the original version of the opera that without that saccharine ending. It's terrific. Now, the Flying Dutchman is just really a bad opera. Tovey said it best. He said the best thing about it is the overture. He said, in his wonderful British way, that it's immeasurably riper than anything in the actual opera. And yes, he's right, I'll never forget the first time I saw the Flying Dutchman. I was with my cousin, actually my grandmother's first cousin. So she's a little older than I am. And she's still around. She's terrific. She's going to be 96. Happy birthday, Thelma. It's wonderful. But, here's the thing. We're sitting in the front row, grand tier, and I was in high school. This was in the mid-'70s, all right? And watching that production of The Flying Dutchman where everything was done as the steersman's dream, even though you couldn't even tell. It was impossible to tell what was going on. And they're all going, hoya-ho, hoya-ho, hoya-ho. And then you get to Senta's Ballad. And Senta's Ballad, I read about it. It's like, oh, Senta's Ballad. Everyone sings it separately. It's, you finally get to it. And it's like a screechy version of the Christmas carol, We Three Kings of Orient Are. I mean, I've never been so disappointed. And then my dear cousin Thelma took off her vest and dislocated her shoulder. She had a bum shoulder. popped right out of the socket. So I hear this, that was Thelma, not the singer. And so I had to go, the Met's a fascinating place, the Metropolitan. They have a whole hospital back there. I had to go to their first aid center where the guy tried to give her a couple aspirin. And she said, no, I don't need aspirin. I need to get to a hospital. Quick, get me to a hospital. So I hauled her out of the front row of the grand tier, stepping on everybody's feet as we went. Meanwhile, they're all hoya-hoing down on the stage. And we got to an ambulance, and I spent the evening with her sitting in the emergency room of Roosevelt Hospital in the 1970s in Manhattan. And boy, was that more exciting than anything that was happening on the Met stage. Certainly more exciting than the Flying Dutchman. So there you go. Klemperer for the Flying Dutchman. I mean, if you want to hear it, you might as well just have the best, because the rest of them just aren't worth sweating over. Next, we get to Tonheiser, another opera that nobody particularly likes or cares about. Now, the thing about Tonheiser is that the overture and the Venusberg ballet, again, are easily the best things about it, largely because the Venusberg music was written way, way, way later, and it's much better quality stuff. The thing about Wagner and his operas is that Wagner began as a crappy Italian music composer. And he only very gradually evolved, an incredibly fabulous, he was a genius, an incredibly fabulous personal style of his own. But it took a while. And of course, audiences were terribly resistant because they liked Italian music. They liked good Italian music. Wagner wrote bad Italian music. And, one of the criticisms of Wagner's early operas is that they, Die Feen sounds like Weber, bad Weber. And Das Liebesverbot sounds like bad Italian music. And Rienzi sounds like bad French music. Until Wagner became Wagner, all he could do was horrible versions of other music that other people did better. That's just the reality of it. It's the truth. We need to just admit that. And in Tonheiser, Wagner is trying to become Wagner and only very partially succeeding. There's just, the plot, who cares? It's a piece of junk. So if you want Tonheiser and you want the piece of junk, the only one worth having is Schultes. Look at this nice shiny cover here. It's Schultes. Maybe I can find it without the shininess. It's going to be shiny no matter what I do. It's just shiny. But I would definitely get this one. This one because, maybe if I take the booklet out. There we go. There's Schulte. It's Tonheiser. Why? Because it just has the best singing. If it doesn't have the best singing, who cares what it does? And you get the overture and Venusberg ballet. It's the revised version, which is, thank God. And, it's just the rest of this music is so bad. Oh, God. Anyway, so who do we have on it? We have, as Elizabeth, you have Helga Dernesch, when she could still sing. And Venus is Christa Ludwig, who's always fabulous. And Tonheiser is René Colo. And Walter van der Vogelweide. Walter van der Vogelweide, he pops in now and then. He's Werner Hallweg. And Beowulf is here. Beowulf? No, Bitterolf. Whatever a Bitterolf is. I never listened to Tonheiser. I couldn't care less about Tonheiser. I've listened over the years to like dozens of Tonheiserers, whatever they're called. And the only one I've hung on to is this one. Well, that's not true. I have about 5 others. But this is the one I would listen to if I ever wanted to listen to Tonheiser. And so that's the one you should listen to if you want to listen to Tonheiser. And I've run all these by, Bob Levine, who is, the classicstoday.com opera guru, who knows more about opera than anyone ever has. And not only does he know more about it, but he knows more about it in a practical way. In other words, he cares about opera and loves it, but he wants normal people to listen to it and enjoy it too. So even though he knows about every performance in history that's ever been done and every singer, he has photographs of all of their tonsils on his wall. He's as hardcore an opera person as has ever existed, but he's not nuts. He's not a kook. And he's sensible in his recommendations. And we were saying, what about Tonheiser? He said, don't do Tonheiser. Nobody cares about Tonheiser. I said, well, it's true. But we decided, yes, Schultes is the one. So next we come to Lohengrin, another incredibly stupid opera that very few people like. I saw that one too at the Met a few times. Oh, God, it's boring. Anyway, it's Kempe. You got to get the Kempe. Jess Thomas is Lohengrin, and Elsa is Elizabeth Grumer, and Christa Ludwig is Ortrud. Oh, Christa Ludwig is a fantastic Ortrud, and Fischer Dieskau as Tellermund. I've never pronounced that right. Telramund. Yeah, Telramund. Oh, that has that, that incredibly stupid fight scene. I'll never forget, I was laughing so hard when I saw the fight scene from Lohengrin, because, where Telramund gets killed, it's like Wagner's like, you got to kill him. You got to kill him really fast. Really, really, really fast. So what happens? All of a sudden the trumpets go, splat, and he's dead. It's just risible. That's the word. Risible. But anyway, if you like Lohengrin, and it has beautiful moments. It has all that wonderful writing for English horn and bass clarinet that later became, the Swan Lake main theme by Tchaikovsky, where it sounds about 500 times better than it ever did for Wagner. But the Kempe Lohengrin is gorgeous. And I have to confess, the orchestral excerpts from Lohengrin are very beautiful. The third act prelude is vulgar but fun. And, I just think there are times when it's nice to listen to. There really are. And so, but Kempe's performance is like leagues ahead of almost all the others, except possibly Raphael Kubelik's. So go for Kempe and get your Lohengrin fix, and then stuff it in your shelf somewhere and forget about it for 10 or 15 years, and you'll be fine. All right, now we're going to do the Ring. The Ring. Now, I confess, I love the Ring. I've always loved the Ring. I've seen it a zillion times. I've got a million different rings. I've got all the opera crazy ones. I've got the Keilberths and the Kempes and the Clemens Krauss and all those live Bayreuth things with Astrid Varney as Brunhilde, and they're wonderful. Some Knopritz Bushes things, and the Ring is great. The Ring is totally great. The Ring is a complete musical universe unto itself. It is a shattering, brilliant masterpiece. It has unbelievable dead spots that you need to get over with as quickly as possible. And so for the Ring, I'm not pulling out all of these creaky old live Bayreuth things. I've got the Furtwängler rings, both of them, So, okay, so I confess, I like the Ring. The thing about the Ring is that you really, really need to have not just one. You need to have, I put together my ideal rings cycle, pulling from the regular rings, because, you really need to, this is my ideal cycle. It's that simple. It's just the ideal. And if you wind up with a couple ring cycles that are fabulous, what's not to like, right? Everyone has 15 or 16 hours. The Ring is the perfect thing to listen to when you're driving cross country, because especially, when I used to drive back and forth to Stanford, in California from Connecticut, it gets you through one full day of crazy driving, because you drive for 15 hours a day. Assuming you're not like stopping to see the world's largest teepee, or, the Sinclair dinosaur, or, or Holdings Little America, or whatever that thing is. You're just assuming that you want to get through the day and you want some music to get you through the day. And the Ring is great for that. It really is. It's good driving music. So, for Das Rheingold, Karajan. The Karajan, because Karajan's Ring is really extraordinary instrumentally. It has some issues with his choice of singers, because it was Karajan and he was such a maniac and singer wrecker. But although the Ring, it's a good Ring. But wow, this Rheingold is buoyant and transparent and exciting and spooky and atmospheric. It's just gorgeous. And I like the fact that he doesn't have, like the Schulte Ring, a whole school bus full of little brats to go and do the screams, when Albrecht does his thing with the Ring. Oh, look, I have a ring, and they all go, ah! He uses this sort of horrifying adult torture sound, which really works very well. So, Karajan for Das Rheingold. For Die Walküre, well, it's a real easy one too. The best one, easily. Well, one of the great ones, but certainly I think the best one is Leinsdorf. Why? Because Birgit Nilsson did it, and this was caused all that hysteria, for the Schulte Ring, because she was supposed to do that one too, which she did. But Walküre, you get Birgit Nilsson, you get George London as Wotan, John Vickers as Sigmund. Yes, fabulous voice, and and Sieglinde is Grey Bruenstein, and Rita Gore is Fricka. I love Rita Gore. And Marie Collier. I mean, there's just wonderful singers. A terrific cast, and the London Symphony with Leinsdorf. And Leinsdorf was really good, Wagner. Remember, he conducted the other really great Lohengrin with Sándor Kónya, for RCA, the one that bankrupted the whole label and made them go out of classical music for a decade. I mean, it has to be good if it's going to bankrupt the whole label. This is a great Walküre. Now, for Siegfried, and you're not going to get a separate Siegfried. I mean, not easily. Siegfried is, the one we all need to get through in order to get to Götterdämmerung. But if you're going to pause and actually listen to the bloody thing, the one to listen to is the Schulte. Why? Because you have the Vienna Philharmonic in glorious form, and you have the best possible cast. You've got all the nasty guys, the Niedlinger and Windgassen, and then you've got Birgit Nilsson at the very end, to outscream everybody, and it's just wonderful. And who's Hans Hodder is Wotan in this thing, right? I think, if I were a real serious opera kook, I would have all of these cast lists memorized, but I don't pay much attention to them on my off time. So here we go, Siegfried. The second day. Well, yeah, Wolfgang Windgassen, Gerhard Stolze, he's wonderful. Gustav Niedlinger is Alberich, Hans Hodder is Wotan. See, I got it right. And then you've got, Kurt Böhme is Fafner. I really wanted to. So, I just think we should seize this by the snout and go for it, And finally, we come to Götterdämmerung. And for Götterdämmerung, you got to go for Karl Böhm. Yes. Why? Because it's just as exciting as hell. Götterdämmerung is the longest opera in the history of the universe that you're ever going to sit through in one evening. And it's interminable. And I just want a performance that just blows everybody away with excitement. And this one does. And you've got, again, it's Birgit Nilsson and famous people and Wolfgang Windgassen and, all those people that you want. Let's just look and see who's in it, shall we? The exact list. Let's see here. Die Handlung. We don't care about the Handlung. Let's see. What is that? There's more Handlung. Hang on. Götterdämmerung. Siegfried, Wolfgang Windgassen. Thomas Stewart is Gunther, and Gustav Niedlinger is his usual Alberich, and Birgit Nilsson is Brunhilde, and Ludmila Dvorakova is Gudrune Gebich, as Anna Russell would say. And then you've got, really cool Rhine maidens, Martha Mödel and Helga Dernisch and Sieglinde Wagner. And the Norns are very Norn-like. Anya Silja is the third Norn. Not bad. Have you ever heard a third Norn like that? There you go. So that's the ring. That's the ring. That is the ideal ring. And I really think, on the whole, you'd be very hard-pressed to do better, than those four in that order. Karajan, Leinsdorf, Schulte, Böhm. Now, these all used to be available separately, so you could have put together an individual ring. Now you wind up having to get boxes. But here's the thing. The price of a box like this is actually less than the cost of one of the operas. So if you play your cards right and shop carefully, you can probably get all of these things for very, very, very low price. Not a bad deal. Okay, Tristan. Tristan. Oh, Tristan. All right, I have to tell you my Tristan story. Now, I was sitting there with Bob Levine, I'm sorry, Bob, at the Met. And we're at the Met, and the Met has Met titles. And we're watching Tristan and Isolde, and it was with Ben Heppner and I forget who else, another very, very large person. They were two very large people. And so their love was quite plausible. And we're sitting there at the Met, and you get to the Liebesnacht, and I'm looking at the Met titles. And Bob is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. He's hysterically funny. And, and their Liebesnachting, and it was very, very beautiful. It was exquisitely beautiful. It was gorgeously played. It was a wonderful performance. It really was. And so they're tootling along, and I'm looking at the words. And the words are very Schopenhauerian. They really are. It's, your day is my night is your day is my darkness is your lightness. Before I was dark, I was light, and now that I'm light, I'm dark, and because your darkness is my light, I can now be light when you're dark, and your dark is my... And it goes on and on like that. And I'm looking at these translations, and Bob looks at me, and he says, and we're, again, we're in boxes, we're in really nice seats, and he says to me, they sound like two high school kids smoking pot for the first time. And I just lost it. I lost it totally. I mean, of course, I'm laughing hysterically. And everyone's going, shh, it's the Liebesnacht. And I'm getting sick. I'm trying so hard not to laugh. So I turn off the Met titles because I don't want to see the translation. I just turned it off. And I got myself composed and sat there for like 15, 20 minutes, just completely like totally getting myself calmed down to the point where I was nice and calm. And then, of course, I turned on the subtitles, and it says, your night is my day, my light is your darkness, your lightness is my darkness, because your light is dark and my night is day. And oh, God. And I just lost it all over again. And that's all I got through Act 2. I really did. Until, of course, Merlot comes in, and they have the fight, and and King Mark does the guilt trip for 25 minutes. But basically, that got me through Act 2. And it was really a glorious performance, actually, to be honest with you. I enjoyed it tremendously. But for Tristan, once again, here we are. You got to have, it's let's see, Tristan is Wolfgang Wingassen and Birgit Nielsen and Karl Böhm, and Marty Talvala is King Mark, and Eberhard Wächter is Corneval or Corvinal or whatever his name is, Kurthing. Kurfest, Kurwal, Merlot is someone we don't care about, and Brangane is Crystal Ludwig. It's a fabulous cast. Fabulous cast. Absolutely thrilling performance. Absolutely thrilling. Fast, exciting, dramatic, operatic. It's all the things you want in Tristan. Now, of course, there are other great Tristans. The Furtwängler Tristan is a great Tristan and historically important. I mean, some people really like Bernstein's with Hildegard Behrens, who has the flu, but it doesn't matter. Even the Reginald Goodall, slower than crap, but with really good young singers, fresh sounding singers. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, people will have their choices for Tristan. And of course, Karajan's has John Vickers, but, you've got Helga Dernisch and, Am I getting all these casts right? How could I remember this stuff? I have no idea. Maybe I didn't. I don't care. This is the one. Karl Böhm. It's great. Okay. Die Meistersinger. Now, Meistersinger has always been problematic because of casting. Casting issues, It's very strange that way. And probably the best one all around was the Joachim. Except that it had, Katarina Lugenzia, whatever her name is, and she's really just so at best. I mean, nobody likes her. Nobody liked her as Ava, But then finally, and everyone knew what the greatest one was, but it wasn't released except until it was. Finally, they cleared all the rights. It took them 400 years. Kubelik. This is the Meistersinger. This is fabulous. Absolutely. It's Thomas Stewart, Shandor Konya, Gundula Janowitz, Birgitta Fassbender, Franz Krass, Gerhard Unger. It's just terrific. With Bavarian radio forces, Kubelik was a great Wagnerian. His Lohengrin is great. His Parsifal is great. So, I think that, some people swear by, Schulte or Karajan or some of the older ones, some of the real old creaky ones. Ooh, they creak because it's in Nuremberg, a creaky city, So the opera should be creaky too. Now, as far as Meistersinger goes, until you get to the part where, Wagner talks about always obeying your German masters, which sends a chill down my spine. I don't know about you. It's really a very lovely work, and I enjoy listening to it, not to pay attention to it. I think it makes great background music. It really does. It's so, it's polyphonic, but amiably polyphonic. So you have this constantly active, very light and refreshing sort of orchestral texture that's going on all the time. And on top of that, you have people sort of chatting in German, which I don't need to feel any need to pay attention to at all. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece. I'd love to hear it totally without voices. The whole thing, soup to nuts, because it's just lovely. Lovely, lovely music. And this performance, the Kubelik performance, it's not only the best as background music, but if by some happenstance you decide you actually want to listen to it and pay attention to the nonsense that these people are spouting, it's good for that too. What's not to love? The label here, this is on Arts Music, Arts Archive, but I think it was also released on like Mito. It's been around. It should be gettable. But if you love Meistersinger, you must have the Kubelik Meistersinger. And then, oh, we're done. Oh, Parsifal. Oh, we only have two. Oh, if I got a Parsifal story for you. All right. So, when I was in high school, back in the day in New Haven, we had student subscriptions to the Met. We had an opportunity to come and see student performances. The first thing I ever saw was Aida with Leontine Price. Oh my God, it was fabulous. I forget who the tenor was. I think it was Cornell McNeil. But, you know, it was the Met and it was Aida, and Aida is just wonderful, perfect first opera. Couldn't be better. Well, the second opera on our series was Parsifal. Just what you want to take a high school student of like 15 or 16 years old to go see, right? So we're sitting through Parsifal, and, you know, oh my God. The only thing I really remember about the performance, well, there are two things I remember. The first thing is the harp glissando at the end of Act 2. It was the only thing that stood out. You know, it's just a slow droning on and on. Then all of a sudden, you know, what's his name? The bad guy comes out. What's the bad guy? What's his name here? Oh yeah, that guy, Klingsor. That's him. Klingsor comes out and he hurls the spear. The harp goes whoop, and Parsifal catches it. And I thought, wow, a harp glissando. That's really cool, you know. And it was really cool. I love the harp glissando. But after the harp glissando, there's nothing for ages. And then you get sort of to the end where everything is transfiguring, you know, at the very end, everything gets transfigured because it's all very holy. And they had all this like blue light, and it was very blue. I just remembered blueness, lots of blue. And it's over, and the blue subsides. And I look at the guy next to me, and his wife, he's like asleep, you know, of course. And his wife was like, come on, Marty, let's go home. And she sort of does this to him. And he stayed blue. He was dead. He actually died in the middle of the performance. And nobody knew. And that's when I understood that there was some music that sets your pulse racing and some music that just stops it dead in its tracks. And Parsifal is one of those pieces. Now, the thing about Parsifal, aside from the fact that the plot is atrocious and I find it morally offensive and completely horrible, is the fact that the music itself is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Luminously beautiful. From first note to last. You know, Bob says it. You know, he says it has this wonderful, wonderful shimmer. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. You know, his description of Pfitzner's Palestrina is Parsifal without the laughs. You know, and and if you take the time to get to know Parsifal really, really, really well, which we're talking about decades of your life, I believe it could be a profound experience. I really do. Although I'm so completely uninterested in any of its theological and spiritual and philosophical pretensions. It's just so, I don't know, it's just bad bourgeois morality set to music. And coming from Wagner, I understand why Nietzsche was so disappointed in him. I really do. Why he went for Carmen instead. You know, it's pretty clear choice in my view. But Parsifal is gorgeous, and you saw I held it up. Kna. You got to get Knappersbusch. Now, I could have done the Knappersbusch Parsifal box as one of my world's stupidest box sets, because there is actually available in Japan. I believe it's a set of 12 Knappersbusch Parsifal performances on 48 CDs. That's it. The whole box. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't order it. I couldn't bring myself to order it. You know, even I have my limits, and that that was mine. It was really mine. But this is a great performance for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's live, and Parsifal benefits from being live. You have great flower maidens. Look at the flower maidens. Gundel Janowitz, Anya Cilia, you know. I mean, Parsifal is one of those operas where you always get great casting because it's Wagner's spiritual testament. So singers feel they ought to do it, even if they don't really like it. And I mean, listen, look at the cast here. You got George London as Amfortas, Titterell is Marty Talvala, Gurnemans is Hans Hotter, Parsifal is Jess Thomas, Klingsor is Gustav Niedlinger, fresh from doing Mime, whatever he was doing, and Kundry is Irene Dallas, who we never hear from again for some reason, but, you know, she's very good. And Knappertsbusch was the Parsifal guy. I mean, he had tremendous command of the score. It's not, you know, on the whole, the slowest possible Parsifal. That was Reggie Goodall, who makes it last about 6 months. But it's a great recording of Parsifal, and if you love the opera, I pity you. Other than that, there you go. The ideal selection of Wagner operas. And whether you like them or don't like them, and please feel free not to like them by all means, those are the ones that you should have. You know, I mean, it's not really a question of disliking them actively. I sort of dislike them, some of them passively, because every so often I really feel like listening to them. I mean, the Flying Dutchman has got a great tam-tam part, you know. Lohengrin has beautiful moments. Even Tonheiser, you know, these are... They are incredibly imaginative, daring works, which you have to acknowledge and respect, even if you don't particularly care for them. And so I'm not terribly worried about the fact that I don't collect Wagner operas like I collect Janacek string quartets, for example. It's not important. You go with what you like. And we have the freedom to like whatever we want. And the important thing is that there are these great recordings out there. And I really can imagine some of you only wanting to get one, just to have it so you can hear it, so you can know it and experience it. And I think you should. I mean, I think everybody should hear these things at least once and just get to know, because they're such important pieces and often very beautiful. And so, you know, there you go. Keep on listening, folks, to Wagner operas or any others. We'll do more of these lists, and with operas that I think are a heck of a lot more fun than these are, but I think this is one hell of a good list. I really, really do, and I hope you do too. I'm sure you will let me know what your choices are. Take care. Bye-bye.